Imagine this, 60 miles out, an enemy pilot is flying high, probably humming a tune thinking they're completely safe. They're wrong. Dead wrong. In less than 3 seconds, a Pakistani F-16 will unleash a weapon that doesn't need any more human guidance. This missile climbs, it turns, and it finds its mark with chilling precision. We're talking about the AIM-120D3 AMRAAM, Islamabad's newest, longest-reaching ace in the sky, and trust me, it's a game-changer. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why neighboring air forces are probably updating their threat books tonight. This isn't just about a new missile. It's about a seismic shift in regional air power dynamics. Historical backdrop. The story of Pakistan's aerial prowess, or at least its ambition, really starts to pick up speed around 2007. That's when Pakistan made one of the largest AMRAAM orders ever placed by any nation. We're talking roughly 700 missiles, a truly staggering number. Why such a massive investment? Well, the goal was pretty straightforward. They needed to replace the aging, somewhat clunky, semi-active AM-7 Sparrow missiles. Those old Sparrows were like a leash on a fighter pilot. They required the launching aircraft to constantly paint the target with its radar until impact. It tied the jet up, made it vulnerable, and limited what a pilot could do. The AM-120, on the other hand, brought true fire-and-forget engagement to the table. This meant pilots could launch their missile, immediately break away, and already be searching for the next bandit. It revolutionized air combat. That initial purchase gave the Pakistan Air Force, PAF, a serious beyond visual range, BVR punch, a capability that immediately made adversaries sit up and take notice. But now, with the planned acquisition of the D3 variant, Pakistan is looking to push that reach even farther, past the 160-kilometer mark, while simultaneously doubling the missile's onboard brainpower. It's not just an upgrade, it's a redefinition of what their F-16s can do, what makes the D3 different. So what exactly makes the D3 such a big deal? Think of it this way. If the older AIM-120C8 was a very smart, high-achieving student, the D3 is the valedictorian with a full-ride scholarship to the most prestigious university. It's in a whole different league. The improvements are subtle but profound. We're talking about a new two-way data link antenna that allows the missile and the launch aircraft to constantly exchange information, even after launch. This means the missile can receive updated target information, course corrections, or even retargeting instructions mid-flight, making it incredibly difficult to evade. Then there's the improved propellant grain, which might sound like a minor detail, but it's crucial. Better propellant means more sustained thrust, which translates directly into extended range and a higher average speed throughout its flight profile. And let's not forget the tighter internal electronics. This isn't just about miniaturization. It's about enhanced processing power, better countermeasures, and greater reliability. All these advancements shrink the physical package ever so slightly, yet they dramatically stretch the kinematic envelope. What does that mouthful mean in plain English? It means the D3 flies longer, it turns harder, and it maintains its energy much better through complex maneuvers. The best part? It still fits perfectly into the same launch rails Pakistan already uses on its F-16s, making integration relatively seamless. And the lock-on after launch capability, while present in earlier AMRAAMs, is now standard and far more sophisticated. This means even if a target aircraft tries to play hide-and-seek, perhaps ducking behind a mountain ridge or using terrain masking, the D3 can reacquire and re-engage on its own, turning evasive maneuvers into a deadly game of cat and mouse that the missile is designed to win. It's about making sure that once you commit to a shot, that shot counts. Fire and forget explained. Let's talk about fire and forget for a moment, because it's a concept that radically transformed air combat and is central to the D3's lethality. Remember those old radar missiles like the AIM-7 Sparrow we just talked about? They were a pain. The launch aircraft had to keep its radar fixed on the target, continuously painting it with electromagnetic energy, right up until the missile hit.
Target locked.
It was like trying to hold a laser pointer steady on a sprinting cat. Difficult, distracting, and dangerous. If the launching jet broke lock even for a second, the missile would go dumb. The AMRAAM, however, changes all that. It's the cat that carries its own laser. Once the rocket motor boosts the missile off the rail and its own active radar seeker goes active, the missile becomes completely autonomous. It tracks its target, guides itself, and makes its own decisions. This frees up the launch jet immediately. The pilot can then crank hard, dropping altitude to evade return fire or switch to engage a second threat. Imagine the tactical advantage.
Adjusting trajectory.
One F-16 can ripple fire several D-3s at multiple opponents in quick succession
Locked.
before any of them even realize who's shooting, let alone what's coming their way. This ability to engage multiple targets simultaneously and then immediately reposition or engage other threats is a force multiplier, giving a single fighter far more combat punch than ever before. It shifts the burden of guidance from the vulnerable launch platform to the missile itself, making the entire engagement sequence far more survivable and effective for the pilot. Why range matters in South Asia.
Target locked.
Now let's zoom in on why range specifically is such a critical factor in the South Asian context. The Indian subcontinent is, geographically speaking, a cramped sky. Airfields near major cities like Lahore in Pakistan and Amritsar in India are barely 5 minutes of supersonic flight apart. In such a tight operational environment, every extra kilometer of missile range isn't just a bonus. It's a strategic imperative. That additional reach means Pakistani fighters can threaten high-value aerial assets, like adversary support tankers or critical airborne early warning (AEW) aircraft, even when those assets are orbiting deep inside enemy territory, without the Pakistani jets ever having to cross the international border. This isn't just about shooting down planes. It's about control and psychological warfare. That psychological leash forces opponents to push their refueling tracks and AEW orbits much farther back, away from the front lines. What does that achieve? It starves frontline fighters of precious gas, limiting their time on station and reducing their combat effectiveness. Crucially, it also gives PAF jets much-needed breathing room closer to home, allowing them to operate more safely and effectively within their own airspace while still exerting influence far beyond their borders. It's a classic example of how a technological advantage can create a significant operational advantage, dictating the terms of engagement without firing a single shot. The longer the reach, the larger the sanctuary for one's own assets, and the smaller the sanctuary for the enemy's. Integration reality check. Despite some breathless headlines screaming, "New missiles delivered recently," it's important to inject a dose of reality. The U.S. Embassy quickly clarified that recent contracts are for sustainment only. Think spare parts, battery swaps, software patches, and essential maintenance, not shiny new D3s. It's easy to get excited, but the path to new capabilities is often long and winding. Islamabad's actual roadmap still targets 2030 for the first D3 arrivals, which gives planners a solid 8 years to meticulously upgrade F-16 software and cockpit displays. This isn't a plug-and-play situation. Integrating a missile as advanced as the D3 isn't just about bolting it onto a wing. It requires deep-seated changes to the aircraft's mission computers, radar systems, and pilot interfaces. Every line of code, every display symbology, every sensor integration needs to be perfectly harmonized. And let's be honest, no advanced U.S. missile leaves the factory without tight U.S. government approval. So while Pakistan might have the rupees ready, deliveries ultimately hinge as much on geopolitical considerations and strategic alignments as they do on financial transactions. It's a complex dance between military requirements, diplomatic relations, and regional power balances. This means that while the D3 is indeed on the horizon, its arrival is contingent on a lot more than just a purchase order. Strategic ripple effect. So what kind of strategic ripple effect does this potential D3 acquisition create? Well, New Delhi certainly isn't sitting idly by. They're answering with their own advanced missile programs, like the extended-range Astra, and importing formidable weapons such as the Meteor missile for their Rafale jets and later Tejas variants. It's an arms race, plain and simple. However, Pakistan's strategic advantage here might just be its timeline. If the D3 deal successfully navigates the often turbulent waters of Capitol Hill politics, and that's a big if, its F-16 Vipers could effectively outstick Indian fighters. What does outstick mean? It implies they could engage Indian aircraft from a greater distance, putting them at a significant disadvantage before the next generation of Indian hardware, fully integrated with its own advanced missiles, is completely bedded in. This creates an invaluable interim superiority window for Pakistan. This temporary but crucial advantage is exactly what strategists are talking about when they discuss shifting the balance of power. It's not about achieving permanent dominance, but about creating periods of tactical advantage that can have profound strategic implications, influencing everything from deterrence postures to potential conflict outcomes. It forces rivals to rethink their strategies, accelerate their own upgrades, and potentially divert resources, all because of the promise of a few advanced missiles. So, what do you think? Is 2030 too long to wait for the D3? Or will it still be the undisputed top dog when it finally shows up in Pakistan's arsenal? Drop your take, your predictions, your wildest theories in the comments below. We love hearing what you've got to say. And if you're hungry for more deep dives into the intricate world of South Asian air power, do yourself a favor. Whack that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. You won't want to miss our next reveal. Not just a missile, it's a system. It's crucial to understand that buying an AMRAAM, especially a D3, isn't like picking up a new gadget off the shelf. It's not just a missile in isolation. It's an entire ecosystem. A complex system that drags along with it a host of other critical components. We're talking about state-of-the-art training simulators that replicate combat scenarios with incredible realism, allowing pilots to practice firing procedures without ever leaving the ground. We're talking about advanced encrypted radios for secure communication between ground control, airborne platforms, and the missiles themselves. And crucially, we're talking about sophisticated ground support stations, the nerve centers for missile maintenance, diagnostics, and software uploads. This comprehensive package means Pakistani crews aren't just learning to load a missile. They're training at U.S. facilities, often alongside their American counterparts for everything from software tweaks to tactical doctrine. This means that not just hardware, but also the very philosophy and methodology of air combat migrates. When your maintenance team speaks the same digital language as the missile's supplier, when they understand the nuances of its diagnostics and upkeep, something remarkable happens. Turnaround times for aircraft shrink dramatically, and sortie rates, the number of combat missions a unit can fly, climb significantly. In a hot conflict, this ability to generate more combat sorties to keep more jets in the air is arguably as decisive, if not more so, than the raw missile range itself. It's the silent, often overlooked force multiplier that truly integrates a new weapon into an existing air force. Future-proofing. Looking ahead, the PAF isn't just thinking about the D3 in isolation. They're thinking long-term, about future-proofing their air defense capabilities. By 2035, the vision is for a truly mixed fleet of air-to-air missiles. This means D3s for those critical medium-range engagements, but also indigenous options like the HISAR for short-range, quick-reaction pop-ups. And perhaps most intriguingly, there's talk of a still classified very long-range Chinese option to complement these. Why this diverse approach? It's all about complicating the enemy's homework, layering different kinematics, meaning different flight profiles, speeds, and maneuverability, and different seeker technologies makes life incredibly difficult for an adversary trying to jam or spoof your missiles. What might effectively spoof an AMRAAM's active radar seeker might have absolutely no effect on a HISAR's infrared or dual-mode seeker, and vice versa. It forces the enemy to develop multiple complex electronic warfare countermeasures, each tailored to a specific threat. This diverse arsenal creates a multi-layered defense and offense, ensuring that even if one type of missile is compromised, others remain lethal. The chessboard of aerial combat grows more crowded, more complex, but Pakistan is banking on this variety, this intricate tapestry of capabilities, to stay lethal and relevant against any future threat. So, the next time you hear someone say that the South Asian skies are quiet, remember this. Underneath that apparent calm, Mach 4 predators are circling, armed with 100-mile fangs. The AIM-120D3 won't magically appear tomorrow, that's for sure. But the promise of its arrival, the sheer anticipation of its capability, is already reshaping tactical doctrine, influencing defense budgets, and even subtly altering diplomatic talking points across the region. When it does finally show up, when those first F-16s are armed and ready with the D3, Pakistan's Air Force will be speaking a language every rival pilot understands. A language of undeniable range, blistering speed, and that sudden, chilling silence that follows a cockpit warning tone. It's a powerful message delivered from a distance that changes everything.